Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being your show where we talk about TV shows or dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 1, Episode 6 of The Bear. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, I had no idea John Barenthal played Michael. I was like, oh, that's so wild. And obviously, I finally get the answer I've been wondering about, the whole cousin thing. It is, in fact, something between that trio. Once again, I don't know if Sugar was mixed up in that or not, but Michael calls Richie cousin. I kept going back and forth wondering, because it felt like that was probably like that trio thing. Like I said, like it seems like, and I think this probably put Sugar in a very interesting place where, like, she seemed like she was a part of it because, like, hey, we're a family unit. We do this thing. Like, she's there with Michael. Like, Michael being the storyteller that he is, I think that was mainly his and Richie and Michael's thing. And now it seems like Richie the one. Like, I think they've always had, and I think this ends up being this beautiful overarching element to this episode about a delicate ecosystem, because it feels like for Richie, with everyone's moving forward, everyone's finding their new balance in everything, and he's the one kind of living in the past, holding on to the past, because he is that type of guy that, like, hey, I tell stories from the past and stuff because I'm a storyteller and stuff like that. But at least he had Michael to, like, balance off. Like, they were like, hey, we're a unit. Now that he's gone, the equilibrium is off, and it's just like we see that with his date, where it's like he's trying to tell this because Richie's Richie, and he's telling this story, like the Bill Murray story at the beginning. That was, him and Mikey were a part of, but like he tries to tell it on a date, and the woman's just like, I get it. He's like, no, you can call me, you can hear it. It's still there. And she's like, no, I'm good. You're at a bar at 6 and 4 or 5 in the morning, but him is like, it's not about that. That's all a prelude to the big point of the story is we ended up at this party and the whole Bill Murray of it all. So that ended up being a thing. Interesting timing too, because I wasn't about to get into that. That's Bill Murray's personal potential dating life. I wasn't about to get into it. I just thought it was kind of interesting timing, just in the news and everything. But tangents and all that aside, and like I said, it just feels like Richie's stuck. He's just kind of like, oh yeah, there's more in the sea, and he just, like I said, like the restaurants become more of a very like unique ecosystem, and the way he's kind of run things before now, like his form of diplomacy hasn't always worked out. Like obviously he's talking to his buddy John about like, yo, you can hang out here. It's like, yo, like, because I was wondering if it was going to be like a gentrification thing, but I think it's just like, right, there's a lot of businesses. Like, he's like, yo, the guy that has a bar next door, didn't really mess with him. We didn't get along, but it's still a thing of this neighborhood was a certain way for so long, and now it's changing. A lot of those places are getting torn down or closed down, and other stuff is getting built in its place. It just feels like from Mike, like, it's so interesting because there's that parallel with Carmen and Sugar, because Sugar talks about things not being on solid ground. I think this is the first episode they ever reference her actual name being Natalie. I think so. I think they've always called her Sugar before, so they've never, like, it's so interesting for, like, I think this is the first episode they've actually mentioned her name being Natalie. Either way, with Sugar, like, she just wants solid ground because life has been in such a tailspin, I think, for so long. So, like, she's here to handle, like, some, like, she owes money to the IRS, and she's trying to cut, like, do some things that kind of make it so they have to pay less. And it's like, she's a co-owner in all of this, which I even love. Carmen throws it in her face. Like, you shouldn't have, like, co-signed with a drug addict. But even he later on goes, I'm sorry about that. Truth be told is, if I was in your circumstances, I would have done the same thing, because it was Michael. Like, of course you do that. Just the same way, Jimmy would, like, that's how he got in the $300,000 worth of debt with Jimmy, because Jimmy was like, yeah, I'll give him the money. It's like everyone loved Michael, flaws and all, and and maybe that is, like I said, a little bit of that regret where it's like, man, we saw the signs and maybe we ignored them, and just it was there in front of us and we just didn't quite see it. So, but I do like that Carmen and Sugar do have their moment, because obviously she's like, she doesn't like this place, because like I said, if it being this constant reminder for Carmen, it's kind of a constant reminder for Sugar. And also, the fact is, it's like, right, this place kind of, she feels like it's not worth keeping. She's kind of like referencing giving it away beforehand. And even Jimmy was, trying to buy it off of him. But, it is that thing of, it's just a reminder for her. And it's a reminder of like all the time that we're sinking into it. And then what do we get out of it? We get chaos and we get resentment. Because for Carmen, it's like you're blaming this all in the restaurant, and none of that blame is going towards Mom or Mikey. And it's like, because maybe on some level for Carmen, the reason why he doesn't want to blame the restaurant, because it's like, right, it has its issues, but it's an issue, like it's a symptom of an issue that we haven't, the root cause is like maybe kind of like, it starts with Mom and Mikey. But I think once again for Carmen, it's like this place is kind of his escape. The way I feel about it is that the restaurant is his solid ground. And so it's like, right, this thing kind of keeps me afloat, but it's also drowning me at the same time. I think it's kind of that same way for everybody. Because even Sugar's like, I know it's stupid, but you never ask me if I'm okay. And she's for one, and I understand it, because even later on, Carmen's like, it's reasonable wanting solid ground. It's also reasonable that you do want someone to just be like, are you okay? And that's not always the easiest thing for Carmen to ask, because for him, it's like, I feel trapped because I can't verbalize, I can't really explain how I feel. And so for me to ask someone how they feels insane. It's like, how am I going to ask someone how they feel when I can't even figure out my own shit? Like, it's one of those things of like, I can't, but it's like, he ends up asking her, and she's just kind of joking, being like, oh, I'm really good. So they ultimately end up finding out what they were looking for, because Michael had his own system, which obviously we're kind of changing this, that there's layers to that, because it's like, hey, the system of how he did like the paperwork and the pay and stuff like that, plus like the system of how the restaurant was run, and the system of how everyone had their role in the system, and how that's kind of changing. And this kind of circles back to Richie, that he's feeling a little, like I said, lost because of it, like because of things being run in this very delicate balance. He couldn't find his gun at one point in time, because his gun was his equalizer. It's like, that's how I handle stuff in this neighborhood. But like when stuff started popping off, he couldn't find his gun in time. Sydney's the one that found another way to handle things. I mean, especially when it's like, and everyone kind of accepts it. It's like, when the shot was fired at the restaurant, and Sugar's like, should we call someone? Literally everyone in the restaurant was like, no, you don't do that. That's more of a problem if you call the cops. You do not do that. We don't do that. But I think it's like Sid being the one, like she went out there with, I keep confused. Like, is Gary Sweeps? Gary is Sweeps, right? Like, if he is, maybe I think they said his name like once, and maybe once again, maybe Sweeps is another character, and I keep confusing Gary with him. But either way, I'll call him Gary going forward, just to make sure I don't confuse him with the character Sweeps if he's not Sweeps. But either way, Gary and Tina went out there with Sydney. I thought they were going to pull her back, but Sydney ended up cooking. She's like, I'm Sydney. He's like, I'm John. And he's like, I'm Mr. Carl. Would you see? Sydney was like, wait, what? I was like, okay, Mr. Carl and John, like you could tell that threw her for a loop for a second, but it's like, all right, she's cooking. So she does her thing. It's like, cool, bring out some meals, go and bring out some drinks, like some leftover stuff. So I need you guys to calm down. Let's keep our voices low. And because Richie got his gun, but it was like a thing of, he has a very specific role at this restaurant, and he feels like he's losing it because everything's changing, everything's shifting. So the next scene, what is he doing? Like, they're doing their thing. Tina's doing her thing, and what is he doing? He's trying to tell a story. But for Tina, it's like, no. I'm up 300% in the past 2 months. I'm good. This place, it feels good. It feels alive for the first time. Like, this place was a shithole, and we laid in that cesspool for a while. She's like, I love Mikey, and the way he was running this place was fine, but things are different now. It's good finally. And so, like I said, Richie just feels so out of place because he's kind of a representation of a bygone era, because like, with Mikey gone, and it's like that's why he always gave so much pushback. That's why I talked about it before, like Tina loved Mikey, so she was the one super reluctant to kind of give in to Sydney. But now it's like, once again, she started, I think, feeling good about herself, feeling good about this, enjoying it, feeling like I'm really good at my job again. It's like, right, I'm finally cooking, and I'm ready to kind of put, we're rolling in the right direction for the first time in a long time. And we got to put that system, because once again, they don't even bring up the system anymore, but Richie's once again holding on so tightly to it, because if he lets go of it, it's like letting go of Mikey. So he's holding on to who he is, and he's like, I'm gonna quit. And even Tina's like, oh, where are you gonna go, Richie? You literally have nowhere else you can go. This place is kind of all you have. So it is kind of like this thing that keeps you floating, but it's also drowning you at the same time, like it is Carmen. I think it might be drowning you in a similar way in some capacities, and drowning you in a different way in other capacities as well. It's just like the thing that can be, it is that, like I said, it's just the thing that it can be is your lifeboat is also your anchor. And I guess in a way, Mikey is like their anchor, and he's lifeboat and anchor. And it's like, yeah, this was my best friend. I think they knew he just like he's been a part of this family since they were kids and stuff. So I think because Richie's looking at it like Sid's a kid. She doesn't really know how things, but it's like, yeah, but you're underestimating her because she's really good at what she's doing. Like she's helped Carmen turn things around. And like, because I think they're the OGs of the squad because they're probably like the oldest members of the squad. And he just feels like, right, the last person he had on his side is now slipping away. And he's alone on this island, whereas everyone else is progressing and moving further away. He's staying put where everyone else is making progress, you know? And even to the point, like, I don't know how to interpret that ending. So the cops show up at the end there. So I don't know if that's, hey, someone else called the cops because, hey, this is what, like, this neighborhood's turned into now. Or is that supposed to be, like, Richie throwing a little bit of chaos into it because it's like, right, I can't, like, solve things my way. I'm going to handle it. I don't know. I don't know if that, like, Richie had anything to do with the cops showing up. Because the whole point was like, right, we don't call the cops. Like, don't even insult me. Because John was like, oh, please don't call the cops. He's like, I'm not going to. But I don't know if Richie did that just to throw a little chaos there or what. Or maybe it's in his mind, it's like, right, things have to change. Things can't stay the same. Normally, I wouldn't call the cops, but now I am. Just to kind of change things up. Or is it just to throw a wrench in what Sydney tried to set up? I have no idea. Because she was like, yo, I had this handled. And he's like, yo, she thinks she got it handled. But this is a delicate ecosystem. Who knows? There's also the whole situation with Sydney trying to get that risotto started. And obviously, like, I don't know if that's kind of based on what she was thinking last episode before she went back to sleep. Woke up, took down a note, and then went. I don't know if that has to do with that or not. But, and it was the whole point that Carmen was making of like, right, things are kind of flowing nicely for the first time. It's like, I'm trying to enjoy the calm a little bit. Like, let me bask in it a little bit before we really start throwing a wrench in and stuff. But she makes a risotto. Everyone else is like, yo, this is good. This is good. This is good. This is good. But the problem then becomes Carmen being like, oh, yeah, it's great. Not perfect. And so for Sydney, it rubbed the wrong way. I mean, Carmen even said like, oh, yeah, I call all your previous employers because like they're people I know. And it's like, yeah. She's like, why would you do that? He's like, you're really good and this place is not. So I had to kind of, I guess, get a more understanding of her character of like, yes, you're very good, you're very talented, but you're also very impatient, you're very green. Because I think she wants to prove herself so much because of, we know, like, her catering thing kind of went kablooey in her face. So I think she's going above and beyond and like, now I got to prove myself. I got to make a name for myself. And she even admitted she came to this place because this could be a place that she could finally kind of like escape her bubble of just being like, relegated to this. I can be something really special. So that kind of showed you her reasons for coming here. This is an environment where I can shine, which she does shine. She also ended up giving her risotto away to a guy. Just, oh, I had to spare so you can have this. It's just like, I think she wanted to kind of feel good about like, yeah, someone else enjoying it. Because Carmen didn't say it was good. Like, he said it tremendous. And then he was like, oh, I said it was great. She's like, actually, you said tremendous a second ago. Like, you could, like, she's a little neurotic in that regard. And like, she's like latching onto that because it's like, I mean, I think there's a lot of people here, Carmen in particular, and Richie, like all, and Sydney, who are all trying to fill some void there. And it's just like, it feels like she needs that gratification. Like, I think it's just, she kind of has no, I don't know if it's like I don't know if it's a self-esteem thing or not. It feels like it might be, but it feels like she needs the gratification. So I don't know if that was just to prove something to Carmen, which even he later on was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I was kind of like a little dickish to you. I mean, yeah, he was, but I mean, it wasn't dickish like episode 3? I don't think it was dickish like that, but I think him just saying it wasn't perfect, yeah, and it's like, right, that wasn't cool of me. So, but once again, just the well-oiled machine operating the way it is, so. I don't know. I'm super interested to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. Like I said, it's just like the Richie stuff. I brought it up last episode. I was like, oh, maybe he's going to still end up selling drugs. I could see him being kind of the fuck up because he feels so lost and out of place with this place because it's not recognizable anymore. Like, he was holding on so tightly to the DNA of, you know, he's defined himself so much by him and Mikey's dynamic. And like I said, now that he's going, that equilibrium's all, and at least he had like, hey, everything's working here because we're all on that system of Mikey. So his DNA is still here, where it just feels like to him, it's like we're scrubbing away everything that is Mikey. Like, this is the last thing I can hold on to. With everything else changing around me, with Mikey being gone, I can at least keep this place the same, but even it's changing, just like everything else around him. So, like, sadly, life moves on and, like, nothing stays the same forever. And Richie, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where Richie kind of lands in these next 2 episodes with all of those developments. But either way, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens next. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.